Hello, everyone, and welcome to Around the County with Supervisor Jim Desmond. I'm your host, County Supervisor Jim Desmond, representing North County, San Diego. And today we're going to be talking about a very important topic affecting San Diego County, and that's immigration. I know you've seen a lot of it in the news here lately. The San Diego sector is now one of the most prolific sectors for having people crossing the border. We're seeing boats coming up on the beaches. We've got a retired Border Patrol agent with us today, Mr. Chris Harris, and he's going to share with us some of his experiences and his perspective on the immigration issue here in San Diego County.
The Veterans Art Project offers free art classes to veterans who are struggling in their transition so they can find out the best version of what they can become.
I felt like I was drowning, and art has brought me back to life.
Vet Art offers materials and equipment in our 5,000 square foot studio in Vista, California, but it doesn't stop there.
We're going to be doing the pop-ups. They're going to be live all over California, so take the time and come hear the story behind the art.
Visit our website, vetart.org.
You're watching 40 years of KOCT television, the Oceanside channel.
There's a quiet battle happening on our streets. Pedestrians are acting indestructible. And drivers act like they own the road. They're both wrong. Be aware, be alert. Pedestrians don't have armor. A message from the California Office of Traffic Safety.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Around the County with Supervisor Jim Desmond. And our guest today, as I said earlier, is Chris Harris. He is a retired Border Patrol agent. So I want to say, Chris, thank you very much for being here today and willing to share your thoughts and ideas. San Diego County, we're a hotbed of immigration here lately, and there's a lot of it in the news. And so can you just tell us, first of all, what brought you to be a Border Patrol agent and then recently retired? So we want to hear some of your stories and some of the things you've experienced as a Border Patrol agent.
Well, thank you for having me on, Jim. I appreciate that. Yeah. This is a story and information that needs to get out to the general public. I started back in New York State many, many years ago at the ripe old age of 18 as a New York State correction officer. Worked at a fun little place called Sing Sing. I went on to be a cop and a detective. I wanted to go federal. I went to the Treasury Department as a federal officer. Then in the mid-'90s, they did a big hiring push for the U.S. Border Patrol. I became a federal agent in the Border Patrol in 96, 97. Luckily, I was sent here to San Diego instead of someplace in Arizona. So I spent 21 years with the U.S. Border Patrol as a federal agent, 26 years federal, and 36 years total in law enforcement. Most of my career, I was stationed at San Diego sector, Imperial Beach Station. I have worked in Ajo, Arizona, Douglas, Arizona, El Centro, and Campo, California. I was also a union official. I was director of legislative and political affairs, so I was in D.C. a lot. So I got to learn a lot about what was going on, 5 different administrations. And that's what brought me to here and now. But I'm still very much involved with this because it affects every single person, our communities, the people that live there, and our nation.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen a lot more activity here in the San Diego border sector. Primarily, from what I've heard, is Texas is clamping down, Arizona is clamping down a bit, and unfortunately, it's driving more and more people to San Diego County. We've had about 130,000 just street drop-offs here in San Diego County since September of last year. And it just seems to be the number keeps growing and growing. Earlier this month, we had, I think there was like 7,000 encounters within a week. And normally that's how many was heard from other Border Patrol agents is that 7,000 number is usually about a month. And now It's about a week. So you being boots on the ground and working, can you tell us, I guess, as far as a Border Patrol agent, what it was like before you retired as to what's it like? What is it going on now from your perspective?
So when I left, we were probably at some of the best numbers we'd ever been, like the lowest numbers. And again, I've worked for several different administrations. I tell people that this should not be a partisan issue. It shouldn't even be bipartisan. It should be a nonpartisan issue. And things have changed dramatically. I used to meet with Barbara Boxer's office and stuff like that, and they understood that we needed to deport criminals, we needed to secure the border, and that sometime in the last 3-4 years has changed. We did see a change in administrations, and I don't again, nonpartisan. I don't support or any administration, but this is the absolute worst. You draw your own conclusions. When I do speaking engagements, I tell people, I don't tell you to vote for it. I don't tell you to vote. But if you want to know about the border and border security, and you're concerned about it, you need to look at what's happened. In the last administration, the president said to the National Border Patrol Council, which is the union that represents Border Patrol, and I was a union official with them, I'm going to consider you guys subject matter experts on securing the border, not some Harvard professor, not this or that, you guys. And he did. And he said, what do you need to secure the border? And we told him, and he gave it to us. Then what happened is around 2018, the cartels figured out how to game the asylum system. And the asylum system is a beautiful system. We don't want to get rid of it, but it's being gamed. It's being abused. It's being stretched out of everything that Congress meant it to be. So they sent up the first caravans. And our intel unit found out that, some of our intelligence units found out that the people that are behind it and organized the first cartels was money from George Soros, believe it or not, and also Venezuelan intelligence. And if it's Venezuelan intelligence, that means Cuban intelligence, which means Russian intelligence. So people are coming here, and you step one foot on the U.S. and you claim a credible fear, and then you're released into the U.S. pending some nebulous down-the-road court appearance. You go before an Assam hearing officer. The GAO, the U.S. Government Accountability Office, did a study that showed about 90% will never show up. Will not show up. And by then, it's years down the road, they'll be married, they'll have kids, nobody's going to get rid of them. So we went to the president and said, this is what's happening. He worked out a deal with the president of Mexico, who's a socialist. And it was generally called the Remain in Mexico policy, but what it was called technically was the migrant protection policies. And it followed UN guidelines.
Was that the Title 42?
No. Title 42 had to do COVID. This was before that.
Okay.
So this had to do with asylum seekers. So what it said is, say you're leaving Nepal and you claim for some reason bad things are happening in Nepal. Well, once you got to Mexico, you're safe from what's happening in Nepal.
Yeah.
So you'll have to wait in Mexico. You'll wait in line, you'll sign up, you'll wait your turn, which is a very American thing. It's fair. You wait your turn, and you'd be heard by a Assam hearing officer, and they would grant you yay or nay. You meet the bill to get asylum. And the numbers plummeted. 80 to 90% the numbers plummeted. So what we're seeing is people are claiming credible fear, and they're on a script. So depending on where they're coming from, they're on a script. Now, I'll give you a firsthand example. I arrested a guy from Fujian province, China, and we use an AT&T operator who's an interpreter. And they swear they can find somebody for every language around the world, and I've never seen them fail. So you put them on the speakerphone, and you ask them a question. They ask the person you've arrested. So ask this guy from China, why are you claiming asylum? Well, I'm a Christian. Now, we do know that China treats Christians poorly.
Okay.
So I'm a Christian. I'm not a good one. I have to work on it. But I know the central tenets of my faith.
Okay.
So I ask him through the interpreter, tell me about Jesus Christ. And he looks up in the air, and he goes, he was a friend of Buddha's. Well, they lived several hundred years apart, so JC and Buddha were not cracking beers together. He's lying. He was given a script. So with the Remain in Mexico protocols, they had to wait there, and the numbers dropped precipitously, and it worked. Unfortunately, under the new administration, on the first day in office, the president did away with that. And so what you're seeing now, these large numbers, probably about 80% of them are due to people claiming asylum. And I was down the border recently talking to some of the friends of mine that are still Border Patrol agents. They had a guy from Japan claiming asylum. What is going on in Japan, a first world nation, that you need asylum in the United States?
Yeah.
I had some media down there when Title 42 ended last year, and talking to a guy through the fence. He was between the two fences. It's on U.S. territory. And he's claiming asylum. Where are you from? And I just said to the press, you'll never see somebody from Costa Rica because it's a good country. People leave Canada and the U.S.
Of course he was from Costa Rica.
He was from Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And if you ask him out in the field, some of them are honest. They're coming here for benefits. And my wife's from Mexico, and she's a U.S. citizen now, and I was very proud to watch her take her oath. But she's like, her parents came here. They came here to work hard. They wanted the American dream. My wife worked for an NGO, a non-government organization, on the border as an intake where Border Patrol and ICE drop people off. And she said most of these women were telling them they're coming here for benefits. They were not coming here for jobs or whatever. So you're seeing this huge influx of people claiming asylum, and that's overrunning us. The cartels have learned to put a group of 300-400 across. And what happens is you have to bring Border Patrol agents from 50 miles around to transport them, bring them to the station, and now you have a hole in the border, and that's when the cartels are putting high-volume stuff through, like narcotics, fentanyl. We have the Pongas now, as we talked before, that are hitting our coast again.
These are the boats. So
The boats.
I didn't know what a Ponga was
Pongas
before.
are Mexican fishing vessels.
Oh, okay.
So years ago, we had what was called CBET, Coastal Border Enforcement Team. One of my friends was actually in charge of it. They were so effective because they got word from people in Coronado were complaining that no boats will land in Coronado anymore. So they got so effective in interdicting these that the smugglers had to send them 200 miles offshore to a mothership, and then they were landing up in Monterey and Big Sur.
Oh, wow.
But at the time, California was not a sanctuary state de jure. So CHP got money from DHS, and they had what was called Ponca patrols. And so they interdicted them. But that's all gone away. So San Diego now is being hit hard. It's probably the busiest place in the country now. Texas was, now it's San Diego.
Yeah. Earlier this year, I went down to the border to Jocumba. You know, that was the hot spot. And I got there early in the morning, and there was a camp of about 20 or 30 people that some of them had told me they just got there last night or the night before. And they were camping, waiting for the Border Patrol agents to pick them up and process them and get on their way. And we actually spoke with a Border Patrol agent there, and I'm not going to out him or anything like that, but he was telling us how frustrated he was with the job. And he actually told us, hey, we know there's a group coming in about 10 or 15 minutes. And sure enough, we saw, on the other side of the fence, a Suburban, drive up to a hole at the end of the fence there in Jocumba that people were just kept walking through. And about 10 or 12 people got out of the Suburban and just walked across our side of the border. And I guess what surprised me a bit was that the Border Patrol agent didn't stop them from coming across the border. He was standing nearby us, and we just watched him come across the border, and actually the people started walking towards him. So I guess my concern is I thought the Border Patrol agents would at least be stopping people at the border, but actually their hands are tied, I understand, from stopping people from coming. Really, they're just processing people once they're here. Is there any validity to that?
So, yes, there is. You hit it spot on. But two things I will say that their hands are tied. Their hands are tied. The other thing, though, is if you got one guy or there are two guys there and there's a large group coming across, we just saw in Texas where they overran the National Guard. So you have that issue. But they're told to do this. And one of the things is, people ask, a lot of news organizations ask me about the morale. There is no morale. People are leaving left and right from the Border Patrol, which is a tough job to get into. It's not like TV where like any schmuck can get it, with a 6th grade education. It's difficult to become a federal agent.
Okay.
So to see people just resigning or retiring as soon as they can, our retirement age is mandatory is 57. And so the union used to have bosses, chiefs, and regular rank and file ask if the union get them a waiver to stay past 57. Nobody is now. People are getting out as soon as they can. Because what happens is they feel that they're actually working for the smuggling organization, for the cartels. And make no bones about it. Anything that comes across that southwest border that's illicit, weapons, money, people, or narcotics, it's all cartel. It's either owned directly by them or you pay them or you pay the bite to them to work that what's called the plaza. So they feel like they're the northern end of the smuggling organization. What they're doing now is they're the load drivers that the smugglers used to have to hire. So they're transporting from the border further north to a station. We feed them, we wash them up, we give them clothes if they don't have it, and then we move them on. And so they don't need a load house anymore. They don't need a load driver. It's the Border Patrol doing it.
Yeah, it's when the county, we were funding a immigration drop-off site in central San Diego. To the tune of about $1.5 million a month, and luckily my peers finally decided that's enough. And once we spent $6 million,
$6 million.
And it wasn't a joke, but it was like, okay, the Border Patrol is their Uber, and the San Diego County, we're their travel agents. Can you speak to the boats? Because we recently here, I'm the county supervisor for North County, and recently we had a boat come ashore very fast, very reckless.
Almost hit some people.
Yeah, and drop people off at in Carlsbad State Beach, and law enforcement, the Carlsbad Police Department, could do nothing about it because of Senate Bill 54 that was passed, I think, about in 2017, doesn't allow law enforcement to enforce any immigration law. So once these people got off the boat, they're on our soil, they could only be, I guess, approached or apprehended if they committed a crime immediately. And the crime of just coming and landing on the beach from another country, they can't enforce that. Local law enforcement can't enforce immigration law. And to me, that's, we have to have some sort of collaboration between law enforcement.
Well, we did in the
agencies.
past.
Yeah, and right now we don't.
Right.
And that's very, to me, that's just emboldening cartels. And they know that if they can make it on the beach, they're free. And there's going to be no repercussions for that.
So two issues there. One real quick is just, again, back to the state is now a sanctuary state by law. We literally could stop someone at a checkpoint and I know the difference between literally and figuratively. We literally stop somebody at a checkpoint, and if they're drunk, that's not a federal offense. We don't charge them with that. We would in the past call CHP or the sheriffs or whoever. We can't do that anymore. They won't respond. So we have to let a drunk driver go down the road. That's happened. That is purely happened. As far as the pongas, the boats, that's scary stuff because it's so easy for anybody just to step foot on the U.S. and claim asylum. Why wouldn't you do that? So what kind of person is spending a lot of money to come up on a boat? Now, we know, this is going back several years ago, or Intel knew, that there was a maritime route, 6 figures, so you're talking about minimum $100,000, where they promised you would have no contact with any law enforcement, any government entities. Who's using that? So it's either criminals, cartels, gangbangers, or terrorists. These are bad people. And again, the people that are coming on pongas, why are they not just stepping foot on U.S. soil and saying, I want asylum, you get processed and you're released? So they either know they have a criminal history in the United States or in their own record system somewhere. They're bad people. These are the people that should be scaring you, what we call gotaways. Yeah. And we have a tremendous amount of gotaways per year. And we have metrics to do that. The known gotaways, not the unknown gotaways. Known gotaways is a sensor goes off, we see footprints from the defense going north to a road, and then they disappear. That's a gotaway. They're on a camera system. Nobody's there to apprehend them. That's a gotaway. There's other gotaways we don't even know about. But the gotaways in the last 3 years are in the hundreds of thousands. These should be concerning us, and they're coming in on these pongas too, and they're coming in on our boats. Not too long ago, I was down the border again, and two agents had 30 people on the ground. They just walked through the Tijuana River Valley. There's no fence there through the river. And they gave up. And there was 3, and they were all from all over the world, Mali, Malawi, Kenya, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Yemen. But there were 3 well-dressed, 2 women, 1 man from Russia. And the Russian guy was what we call a military-age male, crew cut, buffed out. Does anybody know how to say Spetsnaz or KGB? They changed the name of the KGB to something else now, RSV or whatever it is. But KGB, we're almost in a shooting war with Russia. And we're releasing military-age men into the U.S. Yeah. This should be terrifying people. The Chinese nationals that we're releasing in the United States are terrifying. And they go to military bases. I got called several times in North Island because they had Chinese nationals trying to get on the base. Wow. And at a certain point, NCIS gets involved. This is happening. This is real. Oh. And we're now the busiest sector in the United States because Texas has been cracking down. And they're coming here and they're staying here. They're not all moving on like they used to. And a lot of these people are bad people.
Yeah, it's a shame, and it is scary that we want immigration. We want people to immigrate to the country. We need workers, and skills and people that are educated from other places around the world to come here. But it's just overwhelming right now. And one of my fears is that I talked to another Border Patrol agent about the vetting. Okay, so you get somebody and you process them. What's involved in the processing? I did learn, and maybe you can verify this or not, that they fingerprint the people that are coming in. Mm-hmm. And I read somebody was interviewing a migrant that had come across and had gone through the process, and she was asked, did they ask you any questions? What questions did they ask? And she said, well, I only got asked one question, if I was allergic to fingerprint ink. No other questions. But so how vetted are these people? Because my understanding was we can only vet them against our database, not their country of origin database.
Excellent question. I talk about this a lot. So certain groups will tell you, oh, they're vetted. It's true, but it's not true. So we do what's called a 10P. It's electronic. We fingerprint their fingers, and we take a picture of them, and we ask them some basic, what's your name? And I always used to tell them, pick a name you like. It's going to go with these fingerprints for now on.
Why are you telling them
if
that?
you want to, no, they do that. Just make up a name. So if you want to be Mickey Mouse, that's going to go with these fingerprints forever in the U.S. But as you said, if they're not in the U.S. database or some friendly countries, like we picked up a guy that was a war criminal from Interpol, but we don't have access to other countries. Like China, I'm sure, has a great database of people. They're not sharing it with us. And other countries don't have any databases. So it really is meaningless if you're coming from a country where we don't have any interface with them or they don't have a database. And I'll give you one prime example. Agents picked up a guy from El Salvador just a few years ago. And our intel, and this is before we got overrun, so they had time to kind of question him more thoroughly than they do now. Now it's just in and out. So they question him. They run his fingerprints. It comes back 1040. It's called non-derogatory. Nothing derogatory came back on it. Okay. So they're going to release him on what's called an NTA, notice to appear. They're going to walk him out the door, drop him off at a trolley station. Okay. On the way out, he mentions about the homicides in El Salvador. He says this in Spanish, that he thought that might cause him grief. Whoa, hold on. Let's go and chat some more. So they talk to him more. He fesses up that he had 5 homicides in El Salvador. So they call the El Salvadorian consulate. Sure enough, 5 homicides. Unless and
That this guy committed?
Yes.
Or was accused of? Okay.
So
okay.
unless if he hadn't opened his mouth on the way out, he would have been free and clear to go. So the vetting process really doesn't do much. And again, if you're a terrorist from Yemen or something like that, you're going to ask your people, have you ever been arrested in the United States? Do you have any records? Have you been arrested by the U.S. military? Nope, you're going. You won't show up.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. So the vetting, yeah, they do get fingerprinted, but it's almost, we do catch people through it sometimes, but it's almost meaningless.
Well, and the fact that people are coming on boats, as you were talking about earlier, they skip that whole process.
Yes.
And so if they're not even willing to get fingerprinted, you're right, there must be something nefarious, or, unfortunately, we expect the worst out of these kind of things. But that's what really is happening here.
Yes.
And it's scary. And I think, the citizens of San Diego County, I don't want to scare people, but this is not safe. This is not a safe way to operate.
No.
And fortunately, a lot of them do leave San Diego County. When we had the migrant center where people being dropped off, but those are the only ones that are being dropped off in San Diego County right now at Iris Avenue Station. Mm-hmm. They've at least been vetted, that minor amount, whatever that really means. But they're just being dropped off at a transportation center. And I've noticed the drop-offs that happen there. Most of the people are between 18 to 35. It's young adults, young healthy adults. The families go through a different process, or the elderly or the pregnant, they go through a different process, but this single adults, and that's the 130,000. So that we really don't know how many are really actually being dropped off here in San Diego County. But at the drop-off site, there's no facilities, there's no restrooms or anything like that. There is a lot of taxi drivers that are willing to take them places. Most of the time, what most of the people want to do is go to the airport. They want to go to San Diego Airport, or they want to be dropped off at the airport. And there's a couple of non-government organizations or nonprofits that will pick them up and take them there, or take them to the airport via the trolley.
My wife did that for the NGO a couple of times. She was an escort, and it was weird. They didn't need ID, but they get on a plane. You try getting on a plane without ID.
I know.
It's kind of crazy.
But unfortunately, now San Diego County has become the migrant shelter. And people, sleeping there, because it's not, even if you get dropped off at the airport, you're not always going to be able to get a flight out, within the next couple of hours or so. You may end up spending the night. It's just not a great system at all, and it just doesn't feel right or safe.
Well, look at Denver right now. The mayor just came out and said that they're overwhelmed, and they only have a few thousand.
Yeah.
That they're going to give them housing and food and all that for 6 months for free, and then they have to get jobs or whatever if they do. But they're going to cut the fire department budget and the police budget.
I know.
And I don't want to see that in San Diego. San Diego PD is already undermanned and understaffed. So, and you're talking about the fire department. This can negatively, I was a firefighter before. This can negatively impact times responding to your house for a medical emergency or fire. And I just want people to understand there are some real negative impacts by this mass influx. In the last 3 years, counting what we perceive as gotaways, about 10 million people. The numbers are staggering. We've never seen – the first year in this new administration, I think it was CNN, I was doing a thing, and I said we're going to hit over 1 million apprehensions this year. And they laughed at me. They said it's not going to happen. You're paranoid and, or you're too pessimistic. Yeah, they were right. It wasn't 1 million. It was 1.7 million the first year. Yeah. And it just climbed steadily. This is unsustainable for our country. And you have to worry about who's coming in. We've caught more terrorists in the last month than we have sometimes years put together on the terrorist watch list. And then the criminals and the gangbangers and the cartel. And then there's the human smuggling. This should be terrifying everybody. Again, it should be nonpartisan. Yes. You should be concerned about rising crime, services being cut to you, the taxpayer, and seeing more and more people that are homeless. You can see them now, groups just wandering the streets. They don't know what to do, where they're going. They're no fault of their own.
Yeah.
But my thing from law enforcement is I worry about the criminals, the cartel, the gangbangers, and the potential terrorists. But everything else, there's a negative impact, and it really is hitting our county hard now, as you well know.
Yeah. So, Chris, I really appreciate you being here and giving all of this information. It's phenomenal, and it's good to hear from your perspective. But, we do have a legal immigration system. We have embassies around the world. We have a system in place where you can apply in your country of origin. You can apply for a visa, a work visa, or even permanent status, or a visitation here to the United States. But that doesn't seem to be working. It seems to be And we want immigration here, and we want people to come. But in my opinion, we should only be allowing that many people in that we can properly manage. And we've seen in Denver and New York and other places, they just can't manage the number that's coming through. But we have an immigration system in place, and we're just not enforcing the laws. I mean, that's one of the messages I'm getting out there. My understanding is if somebody does come across and ask for asylum, they're supposed to be detained until that asylum request is verified. But that's not happening. And I'm of the opinion if we enforced our current laws, we don't need new laws, if we just enforce them, then we would have a manageable immigration system. Do you got any comments on that?
Yeah. So when people say that we need new laws, that's not true. It was working. We know it works. The laws, all we have to do is enforce those laws and a couple executive orders. Look, understand this. Both Republican side and Democrat side have screwed up over the years.
Yeah.
We've had a House run by Republicans, Senate Republicans, President, and they did nothing. So both sides own this. U.S. Chamber of Commerce loves this. You're seeing people like Tyson Foods and other places, 13-year-olds working for them. Oh. And so as a labor guy, and I am a labor guy, it's discouraging. We're going back to like the 1910s and 1920s. But the system can work if we apply it properly. Most people don't know. If you jump the fence, even if you come Assam, but you jumped the fence and didn't go to the port of entry in the proper thing, you could still be arrested for 8 U.S.C. 1325, which is entry without inspection, which is a misdemeanor. You do it more than once, it's a felony. We don't do that.
No, we don't enforce them.
The immigration system is broken. The asylum system is being stretched out of control. We need to go back to what it was, the Remain in Mexico policy, the migrant protection protocols. The UN says that once you leave a country where you think it's dangerous, the first country you come to safe, that's where you're supposed to stay. So if we enforce the laws and go back to the way it was, we know it works. We don't need new laws. Just tighten it back up again, and we can do this. We can secure the border. It did work. It's not hypothetical. We know it works. The immigration system, Congress does need to fix that and decide who we want to come in. 2 things on that. No nation state in the history of the world has survived when they can't control their borders. And I look at the Roman Empire. The other thing is you have a house. You have the right to lock your doors and decide you can't come in. You have a right to let people come in as guests, but kick them out at a certain time. Well, now you need to go. It's getting late. Yeah. We need to get back to that. That's a basic thing, is that we get to decide who comes in our country and how many. And if we let you in a visa, we can tell you need to leave at this point in time.
Yeah. Well,
but
with that,
we can do that.
Well, and I wish we would do that and enforce our laws and allow basically, I think, immigrants to come to this country with their head held high instead of having to look over their shoulder the whole time. We can do it, and it's up to us. I know everybody likes to blame people coming across and the cartels, but it's us letting and allowing it to happen. Yes. So thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it, and we'll be right back.
You're watching KOCT Television in Oceanside.
Help us discover areas for improvement in Oceanside by getting the free My Oceanside City app at the Android or Apple stores. While you're out and about in Oceanside, please tap the app to report non-emergency issues needing attention, such as graffiti, abandoned shopping carts, potholes, and tall weeds. The app automatically notes your location, and you can add photographs instantly. The issue is sent and is routed to the appropriate department for handling. We all play an integral role in public services. And by working together with the My Oceanside app, we can keep Oceanside looking great.
The Oceanside Fire Department is the second busiest department in San Diego County, running approximately 24,000 calls a year. About 17,000 of those are related to rescue or EMS. So if you're looking for experience as an EMT, come look at the Oceanside Fire Department.
My name is Kevin Rankin. I'm a probationary firefighter paramedic with the City of Oceanside.
And my name is Daniel Garcia. I'm a probationary firefighter paramedic.
As an Oceanside EMT, you get to do radio reports, get hands-on experience, and driving as well.
Whether it's a fire, a water rescue, or any medical aid, they make you feel like you're a part of the crew and you're a part of that team.
Thanks to the citizens of Oceanside voting in Measure X in 2019, we have had approximately 40 of our EMTs move on to become full-time firefighter paramedics.
There's no other department like this at all. I couldn't have it any other way.
On May 1st, we're opening up applications for EMT.
Come to Oceanside Fire Department, where you'll get
real experience that matters.
Thanks, everyone, for joining me here today on Around the County with Supervisor Jim Desmond. We had a very enlightening topic today on the immigration and the border here in San Diego County from retired Border Patrol agent Chris Harris. I want you to know you can reach out to my office anytime if you have any questions about county government or any type of government. I've got a great staff on hand that are willing to help you out. So contact my office anytime, and we'll see you next time on Around the County with Supervisor Jim Desmond.